Vice Mayor Craig, you'll address her properly.
You can kiss my foot.
Mr. Rickard, you're out of order.
FBI, we are asking you to investigate this council. Please look into this council, how they award contracts, the bid process, how they use their positions to benefit their friends and themselves, how they use their positions to attack residents and critics and neighbors and business competition. FBI, will you please look into this?
And I welcome the FBI here. If you notice, Mr. Thompson with his plea for the FBI and his watchdog group, this city runs the cleanest in this whole county. I guarantee
He was served a federal subpoena this morning.
We did receive a subpoena this morning, and we're going to cooperate 100% with the subpoena. And
most of you who were involved up here, you gaslighted me. You tried to say I was crazy. And now we know that that's not true. And there's a lot of other issues I've been asking about as well.
I got a couple of things for you tonight and a lot of documents. It's one of those shows where I have a bunch of documents to show you, right? A lot of times people say, Bernie, I don't like what you're saying and you're spewing misinformation. But what about the public records, right? What about the, what's the word? I'm searching for a word. I'm thinking of a word. Evidence, right? What about that? You're going to see some of that tonight. I want to tell you two stories. One, I want to follow up on the story I broke, 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I showed you that the city was caught draining Lullwater Lake with that big orange hose. They were draining the lake into the Gulf directly with a big orange hose. And the city won't say why. The city says they didn't even know it was happening. They said they don't know anything about it. So you'll see what I did, and you're going to see what they said to the public record request. So that's the first thing I want to follow up on. The second thing is, in the same area, right, in the Lullwater area, the residents there, they own, the owners of that subdivision own all of the parks. There are 4 of them, I believe. And also the lake and the boat launching area. Now, the boat launching area is a parcel of land that the city stole and built a park on, right? They just did it. They just did it. And they've been lying about it ever since. But I'm going to show you an email from the city about who owns that lot on top of which they built Popeye Park. You're going to see all this stuff tonight. But let's begin with just kind of recapping. You want to see how they were draining Lullwater Lake? Let me show you. So this is the story that I shared last week. Take a look just at a little bit of this. This is Lullwater Lake. It is, well, it used to be a coastal dune lake, a real treasure. There aren't very many of them. In the late 1960s, the city built Front Beach Road and choked off the lake so it no longer gets the flow. Right there is the Gulf. I could throw a baseball and hit the water nearly. Now, Lullwater Lake is a mess. It's been choked off. And at some point, it was infected with lily pads. It's a private lake.
According to the 1962 Diamond Head plat, this lake was dedicated to the owners of the Lullwater subdivision. That's not in dispute. The city even says that the lake is owned by the owners of the subdivision because the city doesn't want the expense of cleaning up the disaster that they caused. The city says they own the parks and the boat launching area, but they don't want responsibility for the lake. So there's no dispute that this lake, Lullwater Lake, is a private lake. Now, over the weekend, well, yesterday I was notified that residents were noticing that the lake was draining. It was a foot or a foot and a half lower than normal. There were spots in the lake where land was seen that hasn't been seen in ever. So one of the residents came over here to investigate, and she found this pump. Look at this. And the city would have left it on unless she called several times. The city would have left this on, and they said, we'll turn it off Monday. But by Monday, the lake would have been dry. This is the pump that is here illegally draining a private lake. You see that orange ball down there? That orange ball is holding up the orange hose, right? So it's sucking water. It's not now because the pump has been turned off, but it was sucking water through this orange pipe, orange hose rather, into this line. And this line was pumping it. The city says, we're not pumping it. Yeah, you are. You're pumping it. That's a pump into this. Hello down there. Jeff McConnell, is that you down there? Jeff, just say something if you're down there. I don't think he's here. We don't know where the hell he is, but he represents, Vice Mayor McConnell represents this ward. So we think they're pumping the water into the Gulf. Into the Gulf. Yeah. Now look at this. Again, this is private lake, Lullwater Lake. The city says GAC Contractors is doing it. They say they're doing a water flow test. One of the residents said that the city had recently sprayed pesticide or chemicals on the lily pads, trying to kill them. And then they pump that water into the Gulf. The city's pumping contaminated water into the Gulf. Do you hear me? Now, the owners of this lake should call the sheriff's office today and demand that their lake is left alone by GAC Contractors or the city. Then the owners can't do everything for the owners, okay? You need to hire an attorney and sue the city and demand an injunction to this kind of stuff before they destroy your property. What the hell? Well, Bernie, maybe you'll report on it. Maybe you'll type in capital letters and maybe they'll stop. They won't. It's worth fighting for or it's not. They're doing all this because they're going to build an underwater pipeline 1,500 feet in the Gulf and pump stormwater at the end of the city pier, causing a dead zone. Look up hypoxia. I cannot believe this stuff. This needs to be removed. Somebody call the sheriff's office. For God's sake, if this was in your backyard, which it is, by the way, it's your lake. The city says it's your lake. Which city resident allowed this? First of all, it would require every single Lullwater resident, owner of the subdivision, it would require every one of you to allow this. They're breaking the damn law. This is an environmental crime. If one of the residents hadn't called the city several times, this would have still been pumping and there would have been no water left in the lake come Monday. Vice Mayor Jeff McConnell and Mayor Mark Sheldon, they say this is terrific for the environment. Look what they've done, the city, to a coastal dune lake. And you know what else I can't understand? I'm not an environmental guy, all right? I like going out in nature, but I'm not an environmental activist. Yet I'm the only person throwing a hissy fit over this. Where in the hell are the environmentalists who love coastal dune lakes? I hear all this stuff about how rare and beautiful coastal dune lakes are. And I say, I believe you, I love them. And then when the city destroys them, there's nobody here to stop them. I swear to God, I cannot believe what I'm seeing right now. This is unreal. This needs to go. It needs to be taken away by law enforcement and used as a crime scene evidence. Imagine if that was your lake. It is, by the way. The city, the stormwater department head, his name is James Denham, Corky. Okay, Corky says, I know everything about stormwater. That's in his bio in one of the city newsletters. He knows everything about stormwater. Well, what the hell's going on, Corky? You're in charge of this. Now, I know Kelly Jenkins is your boss. She's the project manager for the stormwater project that her boyfriend's getting paid on. Yeah, that's another story. So the city said to the resident yesterday, we don't know what's going on. We don't know about this. You don't know about this? Hey, Vice Mayor McConnell, do you know about this? This is your ward. When he ran for office, well, are you going to do anything to save Lullwater Lake? And of course, when politicians run for office, oh yeah, I'll do everything I can to save the lake. And now they're draining the damn lake. Look at this. I can't believe what I'm seeing. This, by the way, down here. See that dividing wall? That's never been dry, and that's always had water coming out and over that. People have not seen this in 20 years. That should be flowing water into the outfall, onto the beach where it always has gone. That's how it was made by nature. It flowed out and then the Gulf flowed in, but they blocked that off. And now the outfall is blocked again. The outfall is blocked. And they're pumping water from Lullwater Lake through this pump into the Gulf. Hey, residents, you should be calling law enforcement and saying, we need to get this thing taken away, for God's sake. They're stealing our water. They're draining our lake. Cannot believe this. The city doesn't know what's going on. Jeff McConnell, Vice Mayor McConnell. Is he? Let me double check. Jeff, are you down there? Jeff, grab a hold of this hose. I know we don't get along, but I'll pull you up. Jeff. Geoff. I don't think he's down there. All right, I gotta go. I'm furious.
All right, enough of that. Enough of that. Let me stop this here. So that's what's going on. Now, let me show you what I did. The city said they didn't know anything about that. That was about, what, 3 weeks ago? Something like that, 3.5 weeks ago. So let me show you the public record request that I sent the city, and I'll show you that right after this. Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. So I asked the city in a public record request about that. And the city said what I wanted was a public statement from the city. And this is their answer that I got directly from the city. All right, I want to read this with you. It was from their public information officer. City staff were made aware last Friday that a drawdown was occurring on Lullwater Lake, which is the area around the construction of Segment 3 of Front Beach Road, the Community Redevelopment Area, the CRA. Upon contacting the contractor, GAC, we were informed, I went a little too fast, that they were testing the flow. All right, and then they say pumps will be used during that portion of the construction, which is expected to occur about a month in the future. Engineering on those improvements is ongoing. All right, so they said GAC was doing it. That was their story. GAC was doing it, and they didn't know anything about it. Now, raise your hand if you believe that GAC rented that pump, put the orange pipe into the private lake, and was draining the private lake without the city's knowledge. Or raise this hand over here if you believe that the city contracted GAC contractors to do this. What they're doing, I believe, now this is conjecture because they won't say for sure. I don't think they're just testing the flow rate. I think what they're doing is they're draining Lullwater Lake so that when they do a water test, quality test on it, it's going to look even worse than it is normally because there's less water and more sludge. And then with the bacteria that they pump into the Gulf, they're going to measure the Gulf water and they're going to say, look how bad it is there. That's what I think they're doing, but I don't know for sure. So I sent a public record request. I wanted, let's see if I have this. I wanted, well, what I asked for was any and all true and correct digital copies of emails, text messages, any other communication, ingoing and outgoing with the following search terms. Okay. I was looking for things like, let's see, maybe, it's not it. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's a different one. All right. Anyway, I wanted this communication. Now I asked for this, I think a couple of weeks ago. The city has not given me the emails and the text messages with the search terms GAC contracting, Lullwater Lake, drawdown, flow rate test. I want to know, why they're not giving me these ingoing and outgoing emails and text messages? Because if they exist, then it proves that the city did indeed know about it. The city hired GAC contractors to drain Lullwater Lake and to do this water test. Now they're caught between a rock and a hard place. So I had some follow-up questions. This is what they were. I said, who notified city staff and under what authority did GAC have to draw down the private lake? The only answer that I got from the public information officer was that a resident by the name of Molly notified the staff. That's it. What about the answer to number 2, Panama City Beach? What about the answer to question number 2? Let's see what you guys are saying. Oh, wow. Let's see here. Are they draining it down for some grass and vegetation? Nothing like they do that. No, this is different, Jason. They have a purpose here. Janice, I think you're right. The city absolutely knows. Yep. Amen. So let me get back to this. So the city, at this point in time, has not given me the public records of the emails and the text messages with those search terms. Now, when they do give me stuff, and I believe the city lies like and I think they don't give me everything, is what I think. Now, what they give me better match what they end up giving authorities, because this is all being investigated by the FBI, right? And it is a crime for the city to conceal and especially to alter public records. And they've already altered public records, by the way, and gave them to the FBI. Oh my God. City Attorney Amy Whiteout Myers gave an altered copy of the plat to the FBI. It's a crime to conceal public records. It's a bigger crime to alter public records, and it's even a bigger crime to lie to the FBI. That's what sent Martha Stewart to prison, by the way. It wasn't insider trading. It was lying to the FBI. Now, you can say, look, the government lies to us all the time with impunity. And believe me, I know. We lie to the government and it's off with our heads. But that's another story. All right, so now I want to tell you about something else. Popeye Park, which is the park that the city built in 2019 as a favor to outgoing mayor at the time, Mike Pay-to-Play Thomas, because it was right next to, and I mean right next to, his son's home. He wanted to put a nice park there for the grandkids, you know. And so they just built a park on the private boat launching lot owned by the owners of Lullwater Lake. So some people say, well, Bernie, the city said they own that. Oh, really? Let's take a look at this. This was a resident sent a public record request to the city in May of this year and asked for the deed. If the city owns the lot on which they built Popeye Park, show us the deed. And here is what the city did. We understand in the title report that, first of all, they told me that nothing exists. And here, look what they say. We understand from the property appraiser that since the title search does not reveal a deed to the city of Panama City Beach. Come again? Come again? The title search does not reveal a deed to the city of PCB? Well, then Bay County has put the property back as it was and will let the courts determine ownership. Ownership's determined by the plat, the 1962 Diamond Head plat. That's the governing document. Everybody knows it, and some of them even say so under oath. But I can't get into that quite yet. The city is in big, big trouble on this. They stole that property. They stole it. And guess what else they did? They issued a fraudulent permit, an electrical permit. Those of you who have had to get an electrical permit from the city of Panama City Beach, you're not going to believe what I'm going to show you right after this.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
Have you received a speeding ticket for which you want no points placed on your driving record? I'm El Saulene, 850-215-0628. Let me help you.
So you may remember when WMBB earlier this year did a story trying to save Mike Thomas's ass, former pay-to-play mayor Mike Thomas. And WMBB ran out there like local news does because they don't want to lose the funding that they get from the current mayor, Mark Moneymover Sheldon, through his TDC money that they pay the parent companies of the local news. Yeah, it's a long story. But this is what WMBB did. You just saw the city doesn't have a deed, right? And the property appraiser also altered documents and then changed it back. And then the property appraiser, after this report, said, my name's Bennett and I ain't in it. He's not going to be, he totally backtracked on what he said because he knows that the plat is the governing document. Look what WMBB did. This will show you what Popeye Park is, but notice the pole barn. And underneath the pole barn, there's a light fixture. That light fixture has electricity from Gulf Power. Who turned on the electricity from Gulf Power if that land is not owned by the city?
Popeye Park looks like a lot of community spaces that are part of neighborhoods across Bay County. It has a pavilion and a few pieces of playground equipment. However, this park is now at the center of a whistleblower lawsuit and allegedly part of an ongoing FBI probe into public corruption. Former city manager Tony O'Rourke filed a lawsuit this week saying he raised concerns about significant capital improvements to the park. He says he was ordered not to cooperate with an FBI investigation and was ultimately fired when he wouldn't back down. O'Rourke's lawsuit connects the situation to former Mayor Mike Thomas and former city manager Mario Gisbert.
It's a pretty silly lawsuit.
O'Rourke's lawsuit states that the park sits next to a home owned by Thomas's son. It also states that Gisbert did not get proper approval to spend money improving the park and that it is privately owned. Bay County's property appraiser disagrees. At the request of News 13, Dan Sowell and his team researched the issue Thursday and determined the park is actually owned by the city of Panama City Beach. He added that the beach has owned it since the city was incorporated in 1970. City officials also say the money to improve the park came from leftover money allocated to improve parks. The work costs less than $20,000.
I figure that the guy failed and he's hunting a check on the way out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this park. There's nothing wrong with the way it was done.
In Panama City Beach, Brady Calhoun, News 13, Panhandle Strong.
It's just a silly old lawsuit and a silly old FBI investigation. I'll be right there. His son lives right next door. I'll be right there, son. We'll have this fixed out and straightened out in just a minute. Old Boss Hog said. Mike Thomas says. Did you see WMBB? They brought in the property appraiser, and the property appraiser backtracked like a mug on that one. Dan Sowell said, man, my name is Paul, and this is between y'all. Yeah, because he knows he doesn't want to get dragged into this, and he did. So what I want to tell you about is this fraudulent permit, because someone had to turn on the power. When you get property and you want to turn on the power with Gulf Power, you got to get a permit, don't you, from the city? Check this out. The city sent this to gave a permit to itself. The city gave a permit to itself, which it can't do. The city can only issue a permit if a certified contractor, electrical contractor, wired everything. Which certified electrical contractor wired everything? And Panama City Beach, how did you get anybody to wire anything on somebody else's private property? Look at that. It says that it was the building official who signed off on this is with the city of Panama City Beach, Mark McWaters. He signed off on this. It was requested by Gary with the city. Now, is Gary a certified electrical contractor? I doubt it, because the city has already admitted they just brought people in from the utility department to throw this park up for Mayor Thomas's family. Can you imagine that? Look at this. I asked the city what permits were issued to pour that concrete, to build that pole barn, which, by the way, is not up to code and is a very dangerous risk of being flown out of there if a strong enough wind comes. By the way, hey, if you live near that, or if you live in the Lullwater neighborhood, that is not up to code, and it's very dangerous if a strong wind comes, for God's sake. So I asked the city, what permits did the city get? The city is required by law. They are not exempt to get permits just like everybody else. They have to have certified contractors do all the work before they can get permits. Who do you think issued the permits, and what permits were issued? Look at this. I sent a public record request. Can I get true and correct digital copies of any and all permits the city obtained to build Popeye Park? Ruh-roh. Look what the city said. The city does not have any records responsive to that request. That means the city ain't got none. The city has no permits. The city broke the law. The city, though, if they don't like you, what will they do to you if you don't get a permit? Even if you already got a permit and a CO, sometimes they'll come back at you again. This is the most corrupt city I've ever seen in my life, and not a single one of the officials there will tell the truth. They're all circling the wagons, just like they did in Tallahassee. But thank God, about 2 months ago, the former mayor over there and city commissioner Maddox, Scott Maddox, well, he's in prison now for 5 years. It's coming. Winter's coming. All right, so what else do I have here? No deed issued. No permits. They don't even have a deed. They don't even own the property, and then they don't even have any permits. Look at this. This is the electric box there, the power box. Do you see that little white rectangle on the side of the box? You know what's supposed to be there? This thing was erected in July of 2019. That's supposed to have a green sticker with the initials of the building official, Mark McWaters. He's supposed to sign off on that because the building official for Panama City Beach has signed off saying that a certified electrical contractor has wired that place. Who wired that place? The city says, well, we don't know. We don't have any permits. And so because he didn't want to get in trouble, somebody took that green sticker with Mark McWaters' initials, peeled it off of there. Now, what if that was yours on your property? Would the city say, oh, that's okay. Maybe the rain came and it was maybe acid rain, maybe, and it just made the sticker just fall off, and then a wind maybe blew it into all of the greenery around it. No worries. You don't really need it. Look, here's another view of it. It almost looks like it's wired into the house next to it. Is it wired into the house next? Who lives in the house next to it? I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. I don't know enough about electricity. Can you believe what the city is doing? They have issued a fraudulent permit. They lied to Gulf Power. They had no permits. They had no engineer. They put up concrete and made flooding worse in that whole area. Do you think an engineer, a structural engineer, would have said, yeah, we can do that? Well, if they looked at the covenants, said you can't do that stuff on that lot. But the city, they do what they want to do, right? Well, I want them to keep doing what they want to do until the other shoe drops. That's what I want to see. You just keep being you, city of Panama City Beach. It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan can make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com. All right, I cannot believe the stuff I report to you. I absolutely cannot believe the stuff that I see that I report. The next meeting, by the way, in November and December, they only have one rather than two every month. I believe it's on the 12th or maybe the 9th. Anyway, it's the second Thursday. And I believe this one's going to be at 9 a.m., second Thursday at 9 a.m. And I'll have some questions for the city of Panama City Beach. That's about all I have for you tonight, though. But if you would like to support my efforts, the reason I can tell you the truth is because I don't work for any of those news stations. I never would. I used to work for Talk Radio 101, but they told me to lie to you. And I said, go take a flying leap. And after 8.5 years, I'm here. And I'm so glad to be. And I hope that you'll consider supporting the show by becoming a patron, by going to patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. It's anonymous. It's easy. And you can quit at any time. And it sure helps. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you to those of you brave enough to sponsor the show, even if you do it this way. The Unknown Patriot. Thank you. Who remembers the Unknown Comic from the Gong Show? That's what I came up with. Isn't that great? So thank you to those of you who support me. And I'll keep bringing you the truth because clearly nobody else will around here. I'll see you soon.